Welcome everybody to the You Can't Comp This NBA podcast. This is episode 74. I am Russell Gibson and Adam is actually having the night off tonight because this was a little bit of an impromptu episode. The underlying of this episode tonight is going to be based on Zach Lowe's 10 Things column. So I really wanted to pay a little bit of a homage to Zach because I suppose of my love for him. I think that's the best way to say it. He does his fantastic column maybe once a week, sometimes a little bit less than that, but usually around once a week, and he just goes through 10 things in the league that he's really enjoying, and his observations are very insightful. So if this is someone that you haven't heard of before, I would say at least give it one go. And if reading a long-ish column is not really your thing, he also does a podcast too called The Low Post, pun intended of course there. So yeah, definitely check that out. He's entertaining and educational all at the same time. So just down the left-hand side, if you are watching the video tonight, that's the run sheet. And I'm going to start off with Peyton Watson. I think the main reason I want to start off with Peyton Watson today is because he was just absolutely fantastic today playing against Golden State. And I think I was a little bit surprised when Bones Highland was shipped out from Denver because I thought he was, a really good energy guy for them and a little bit of a spark plug. But I'm starting to understand a bit more what they want to do with their bench. I think they're trying to create different players for different situations, and I think putting Peyton Watson into games for them is just absolutely fantastic because he gives them a little bit more play above the rim, and the other thing he does too is just gives them, so much energy. It's just almost, it's just not funny. He also is very good at, on the defensive end, so I think that's something that Denver obviously needs. They're not a fantastic defensive team. And if you just have a really quick run through his game log, what you'll be seeing now is that he's starting to, really get into the rotation here when you can see he was, clearly inactive back here. So I suppose from a card collecting point of view, what I've been thinking about with this guy is, where is he sitting? I couldn't find anything at all on Card Ladder. He does have quite a bit of stuff on eBay. So am I telling you to go out and, stock up on this guy because, I think he's going to be the next big thing? Absolutely not. Do I think he's a high energy guy that you should keep an eye on? I think 100% you should keep your eye on him. And look, at the moment, nothing is going for absolutely crazy numbers. But at the same time too, he is definitely a lower end prospect. And I'm a little bit surprised that of the prices that's going on here. So he's got a hoops to 25 autograph for 25 USD, 550 for the Donruss choice rated rookie. And then the other one here is the Donruss, it's a base autograph really, isn't it? 22.49 USD for that. So look, definitely not outrageous, but at the same time too, I'm actually a little bit surprised of how high some of the stuff is going for. So do I think that this is the top of the mountain for this guy? Definitely not. I think even if you're paying those, $25, $27 for an autograph, I think that's actually totally fine. That kid is definitely worth having a go on for sure. Alrighty, next thing in our run sheet is a massive shout out to our sponsor, EJ Cards. So they've got a grand opening this weekend. So on the 8th of the 4th, which if I'm getting my calendar correct, is actually Easter Saturday. So Easter Saturday, get down to EJ Cards. They've got a special guest from the Storm, Cam Munster. They've got free giveaways. They've got Easter eggs for the kids, of course, being Easter weekend. They've got some discounts. They've got massive Pokemon mystery packs. So yeah, check them out. Shop number 3, number 2, Whitehorse Road in Blackburn. Say hi to the lads for us. That would be fantastic if you could get on down. Righty, the next guy on the run sheet is Mikal Bridges. So the last 6 games, 32 points, 6 rebounds, 58% field goal, 27 points, 3 boards, 7 assists, 44 points, 6 rebounds on 59% field goal percentage, 27 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 42 points, 4 rebounds, 66% field goal shooting, 30 points, 7 boards, 2 assists. So he has just been absolutely going off since he's been traded from Phoenix. Card ladder wise, there's enough going on here that is worth talking about. If you look at the last 3 months of growth, he's gone up 112%. So basically he's doubled. So that, huge increase in that space there. I suppose for me, the real question is, is where is this guy, going to? Is he going to be taking the next jump? I think, to be fair, we have covered this guy already in the last couple of episodes, but at the same time, putting up those type of numbers, I think that it's okay to keep talking about him, So if you look at on the shorter sort of term, it's quite flattened out, a little bit up and down here. Zooming out a little bit, he's been pretty steady actually, hasn't he? He's been sitting around that sort of 160 mark, and his last sale was 127. I don't mind it. I think the numbers he's putting up really does warrant a very, very close look to it. And obviously it's too late for the All-Star game for this season, but what the thinking really should be for this guy is, can he be most improved this year, and then can he be All-NBA next year, and can he be an All-Star? So I think if you're buying into him at this price, that's the question that, really you'd be asking yourself. I think actually this is a good buy, because the thing that would concern me is that it was just an early bubble. He got there, he's feeling all excited, but these numbers have been carrying on. The other thing you need to keep in mind too is that at the start it's a little bit hard for teams to scout and set up game plans, but there's more than enough footage now for teams to know what's going on and be able to set out a game plan for this guy. I think these numbers are real, and I think it's definitely worth having a very close look at, see if you think it's worth buying into too. Alrighty, so next on the ladder is Kevin Durant. And the reason why Kevin Durant's been on my mind is because he's back playing for the Phoenix Suns now. And when you watch that Phoenix Suns team walk out on the floor, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, it's a fantastic lineup. They've rounded it out with Josh Okogie. And the pieces just really make sense. I think my concern for this Phoenix team obviously is health, but then also too, time playing together on the floor. I think that there's two things that's really working in this team's favor. One is the age of the players. They're all very mature basketball players. They're all very cerebral. I think the pieces fit together really, really well. And then I think the other thing that gives me a lot of hope for this team too is that I think they can also give each other a little bit of load management. So, for example, if Chris Paul needs the night off, that's totally fine. Booker can do a bit more ball handling. Durant can handle the ball a little bit. In terms of sharing the scoring load, there's no real issues going on here. So, I really like this. Today's game with Durant out there, they really looked like a machine. The other thing that's been on my mind with Durant too is, where does this guy stand all time? And I think my current comp for Durant is Charles Barkley. I really like that as a comp because obviously Durant's won championships with Golden State Warriors and you can't directly compare them to Barkley. But I think if we're being, reasonable about this whole, situation with Durant, he went to a very, very solid team. So in some ways, I can almost argue you take away those championships that he got with the Warriors and you just look at his career outside of that. And I think there's a lot of, comparisons there. The other really interesting thing for me too is that now he's with the Phoenix Suns. So, which also was like a Barkley pickup, and the trade package they put towards it, I think there's a lot of similarities there where there's, a lot of players traded away for one player. I think that's a really fun comparison in my mind. So I wanted to talk about at least one Kevin Durant card, and I found this one. I think this is actually super interesting. So looking at the all-time stats on this is, this has fluctuated heavily. So it's sold for almost $300 at one point. The last sale was for $55 USD. Now, the reason why I think this is very interesting, because that's a raw price. If you go over to PSA 10, the last sold on this is $7,500. So I actually think there's a extremely solid play here where you could be saying, okay, I'm going to buy up a few of these raw. I'm going to send them off to PSA and see what I can do in terms of, rolling them over. There's not a lot of cards these days that have that enormous gap between PSA 10 and raw. And that to me is, that's, incredibly juicy. Looking at the PSA 9, it's selling for $235, $200, $250. So I'm not saying the worst case scenario, because even getting a 9 on these cards I think would be quite difficult. But still, there's a bit of margin for error there. just going back, checking out this, just, looking back in 2021, the highest this card sold for was 1,725. So our next card on the list is Paul George, and this just came up from the indexes on Card Ladder. But the reason why I brought this card up is because this is not his rookie year, 2012 Prism. This is the base card, PSA 10 pop of 292. It's actually up 569% in the last 3 months. So I'm always interested to, there's always fluctuations in the market. There's always movement going on. And I really like to sort of, check these out and sort of see what's going on out there in the market. And I suppose you just never know what is going to pop up. And look, I think Paul George has been playing pretty well, but did I think there was going to be a 5x growth on his cards? Absolutely not. I didn't think that at all. So the next card on the list is Darius Garland, and I've put him into the run sheet because I was incredibly high on him at the start of the year. And I think if I'm being, honest about it, I don't think this is what I expected to see in his growth. So if you look at his growth the last 6 months, which is, pretty well the NBA season, he was up to 300 for a PSA 10. He's actually down 50% in the last 6 months. So if you zoom into the last 3 months, he's down 35%. Then if we're going down to the last 2 weeks, he's down another 18%. So where has the movement been on this team? I think we've had a lot of positive movement for Donovan Mitchell, but I don't think that we've been, we're not up 50% on Donovan Mitchell. So I don't think the cash has been taken out of Garland and gone onto Mitchell, and Evan Mobley is selling pretty well, but at the same time, nothing that's jumping out at me saying that, heaps of people are jumping onto Mobley. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by Garland. I really do believe in his talent, and I think that he's an excellent playmaker and, just an all-around good basketball player. The fact that he's down 50% gives me a lot of encouragement. I think if you haven't bought into Garland, I think now is definitely put this guy into your watch list. I will be absolutely bidding on some Garland at the moment. I think this is an absolute steal. I've spoken about before about prospecting on low end and, prospecting on high end. I think, the time is right now. Particularly, we spoke about Cade Cunningham, having that massive dump a little while back. He's recovered quite a bit in that time. So do you look at Garland now, buying him on the low, particularly when the playoffs are coming in? I think that's a really good buy. Righty, the next card on the list is actually a follow-up from our gemrate stats from last week. I wanted to go through a couple of cards off the list. So we know that this was one of the top 10 graded cards from March last year at PSA. This is the 1989 Michael Jordan number 200 card. Population here of 12,552. For me, that is just absolutely, that's getting into sort of the Zion numbers, isn't it? The population on the PSA 10 is 4,800. The PSA 10 last sold for 157. How do I feel about this card? Look, it's fantastic. It's Jordan. I've got no troubles with that at all. Great. It's Jordan. Fantastic. But would I rather put my money into this, or would I rather take the risk on the Kevin Durant orange? For me, the potential return on investment and the risk reward, I think, is much, much better on the Durant. And I would probably also say too that, the pop here is high. So we're talking, 16,000 basically for the two cards between the 9 and the 10. I think this is interesting, but at the same time too, I would say I'm not sure that it's as good as a buy as buying the raw Durant. So yeah, I'll leave that one at that. It does make me wonder though why people sending this in at such high volume. So guys, if you are a Jordan collector out there and you do have an opinion on this, why on earth are so many cards being sent off to PSA? Yeah, please let me know. I think 16,000 is more than adequate. James Wiseman, someone else who's been really hot lately. He's been playing extremely well for the Detroit Pistons. Is this still a good time to buy on in him? Absolutely. Down 74% in the last 3 months. Last sold for $6. I just think that, the crazy stuff that I spend money on, could I spend $6 and get a silver Wiseman? 100% yes, I could. guys, I think this is a really good opportunity to get onto eBay, bidding on, multiples, just putting in low bids and see what comes back. I think Wiseman at this price, with the promise that he's been showing, do I think you're going to 10x your money here? No, I definitely don't. Do I think you could maybe 5x it or 3x it? Absolutely. I think that the risk reward there is 100%. Just looking at a couple of other cards that, isn't just the Prism Silver. I also found the Kaboom here. Check this out. Highest price sold was 1575. The last sold was 400. PSA has it undervalued at 3.9%, which means it's something they're recommending to buy. How do I feel about this? Look, do I think it's a good buy? Look, it probably is. But at the same time, too, I probably feel more comfortable spending $6 on a card than, $400, which is, again, US dollars, too, which is probably around $600, actually, isn't it, really? So, yeah, look, this is something, higher end. If you do have that stomach for it, this could be an excellent buy. Yep. Alrighty, the last thing, two more things, is to talk about the Becket grading scale announcement. I would like to get your feedback on this. I want to talk to Adam about it too. Basically, without going into all the nitty gritty, I can put this up onto socials if you'd like. They changed their grading scale so that you're more likely to get a 10 gem mint or pristine. You don't need 3 10s, you just need 1 10 and 3 9.5s. So I think the problem that people had who had heavily invested into Becket is that it sort of devalued the other cards that they had that were already, 3 10s and not pristine. So I can understand why people were feeling frustrated about that. The really interesting thing, though, for me is that they then backflipped 2 days later. So apparently there was a very big card show over the weekend, and the backflip announcement was made at that, along with also the announcement for the change. So I got to be honest, I personally think this is an April Fool's joke. I think that this is a very clever way for Becket to get themselves to be talked about, and I don't think it was anything more than that. I don't actually believe that they would be changing it's not actually changing their grading scale. They used a different phrase of term to say updated grading scale. No, they did say that. It's actually an updated grading scale. So guys, definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. And then the last thing I put in is Derek Harper. Why did I include Derek Harper, the 1986 Fleer, in? Because I think it's a cool card. I want to look at more old school stuff, and this card is up over the last 2 years quite a lot. It's up 68%. So again, this card is very much in the Paul George sort of wheelhouse here, where it's just interesting that, cards, are moving in the market, and you can sort of see that movement there. The really interesting thing for me is the difference in the movement between the PSA 9 and the PSA 10. So if you'd bought into the PSA 10, which, you would generally say, well, that's actually the better buy to get in, you'd be down 16%. If you bought a PSA 9, you'd be up 68%. So that's really interesting for me too, because, my general sort of thought process is, well, PSA 10 is what you'd be wanting. Pop here is not massive, so 99 plus 500, so you're looking around the sort of, nearly 700 mark for this, for the total population for those two cards. Yeah, definitely not a recommendation of a buy, hold, or a sell, more just, let's see what else is out there and check it out. So I'm going to tie this off here. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We really, really appreciate it. This was just a quick bonus episode. Just wanted to do a quick shout out to the boys at EJ Cards. Again, guys, thank you so much for all your support. Signing off here, guys. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye. Alrighty, guys. If you're in the Facebook room, yeah, he was pretty good in New York, man, for sure. I was going to say I'm going to answer some questions, but there's nothing to answer. So, guys, I'm going to tie this off. I hope you enjoyed this. It was just a really quick hitting one. Just me and you. Hey, James. Oh, gee. Well, I'm going to sign this off then, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I really appreciate it. Take care, guys. Bye-bye. See you, James.